So recently I've been learning to play a type of music on my guitar I've never really tried before. Some traditional blues slide guitar. It involves a slide on your fingers and your guitar tuned slightly differently. Let me give you a flavour as to what this might sound like with a really simple riff. Now I love all of this sort of music. I love the way it sounds, I love the lyrics that they sing about, and I love the names of the musicians. Blind Willie McTell, Leadbelly, Big Mama Thornton, Blind Lemon Jefferson. You might think it'd be great to go back to this time in America where this music was being made. The reality is very different, and you probably wouldn't. But what I want to talk about now is I want to talk about how this music came about and how it's gone on to influence musicians for the last 100 years. The type of music I'm talking about has its origins in the Mississippi Delta in America. But what happened there was it spawned music that would influence not only all of America, but musical artists from all over the globe. 1860. There's still slavery in America. Many of the states in America were slave states. You can see the red ones in this case. And many of the slaves were black. Well, the United States of America had just elected a new president on the platform of halting the expansion of slavery. Who was that president? Shout it out now. Sure, you're right. Abraham Lincoln won the 1860 election on a platform of halting the expansion to slavery. However, a number of the states within this red box didn't want to halt the expansion of slavery, and amongst other reasons, they formed a confederacy against these ideas. And this effectively started the American Civil War between 1861 and 1865. It only ended when the Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered his troops. Well, after the Union victory, the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified in 1865, prohibiting slavery. Let's take you forward another nearly 50 years though. 1910, and 80% of black people living in the southern states lived in rural areas. The life promised by the end of slavery in 1865 of freedom and opportunity was never really delivered. Life was really hard for black people in the southern states. Actually, this is a gross understatement. There was institutionalized racism, and that was in full force. They had different facilities for black people and white people. This was the Jim Crow laws. Weekly lynchings were in occurrence, and employment was seasonal. Many black people worked on farms. However, the state laws of the 1890s actually prevented them leaving the land. So many were barely better off than when slavery was in force. The church became an outlet for frustrations of people at this time, and many early bluesmen, like Son House, pictured here, were also reverends. However, the church proved inadequate for many younger members of the congregation, who were often forced to move to find work. They found solace in music. The music they played was an escape, a way to express their frustrations and fears. But how did the music they played influence people across the world, from young men in London in the 1960s to recording artists now? Surely the oppression felt under the conditions these people lived in is not even relatable many decades later. Well, it isn't. These early bluesmen didn't sing and play about the roots of their oppression. Why do you think that was? Take time to discuss for 5 minutes. Singing about the roots of their oppression would have opened the door to more lynchings and more hardship. Instead, these early bluesmen favoured singing about general dissatisfaction with life rather than specifics. For example, the dissatisfaction with male-female relationships, which now becomes something people around the world can relate to. Not that early bluesmen were thinking about that at the time. Their music thrived in saloons, house parties, railway stations, to name a few places. But their influence went far beyond that. Bo Diddley, who was around at the start of rock and roll, was also influenced by the blues. Have a listen to this next riff from one of his more famous songs. You'll see, of course, that this is straight from the blues catalogue. And even Elvis Presley's Hound Dog was originally recorded by a blues artist called Big Mama Thornton, and that's a straight-up blues song before Elvis got hold of it. So, of course, as artists copied these songs, they did change them. So Crossroad Blues, which was a song by Robert Johnson telling the tale of a man that encounters the devil and strikes a deal with the devil, really got changed quite significantly when Eric Clapton got on it. Let me show you first of all an idea of the sort of segment of a turnaround from Robert Johnson style and then the Eric Clapton style. So the traditional blues kind of turnaround. Then, believe it or not, the exact same song from Eric Clapton. Of course, what happened is bands put their own take on some of these blues songs. So, for example, Aerosmith, Thin Lizzy, AC/DC all recorded Baby Please Don't Go by Big Joe Williams, but in their own flavour. And so the blues was carried on through rock, through R&B. Also, Janis Joplin, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Hendrix have all covered well-known early blues songs. And these in turn have influenced some of these slightly more modern artists. Can you name them? If you want to have a go, pause for a few seconds and see if you can work out who they are. I'm sure you're right. Prince, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Foo Fighters have all been influenced by people who were into and influenced by the blues. And this blues influence stretches all the way to now. Can you name these two artists who have been influenced by the blues? Songs like Bruno Mars's 24 Karat Magic is essentially a blues song in structure and scale. And Human by Rag and Bone Man is an out-and-out blues song. And these are some of the contemporary songs that have done well recently. I can't begin to imagine what life was like for some of these early blues artists, given the history of the area and what they had to go through. But I love their music, and the influence it's had over the last 100 years has undoubtedly been vast.